The wind slammed against the wooden panels of my farmhouse, howling like it was alive. Thunder cracked overhead, and lightning lit the fields in stuttering flashes. I had just finished chaining the barn doors when I heard it. Faint, broken, but unmistakable. A scream. Not an animal's. A woman's. I froze. I looked around. The wind whipped the rain sideways, lashing against my coat and face. I scanned the edge of the woods that bordered the north field. My heart beat faster. I was out in the storm for 5 seconds longer than I should have been. But then, there it was again. Louder this time. Help. I took off running. I didn't think. Didn't hesitate. My boots pounded against the mud, slipping as I followed the sound. Branches snapped. A shadow moved near the old cedar tree. And then I saw her. She stumbled into the field, barefoot, soaked to the bone, her arms crossed over her chest, lips trembling. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Hey," I shouted, waving her toward me. "This way." She looked up, eyes wide, terrified, like I was another threat. I held my hands out. "I'm not going to hurt you, okay? Come on. You're freezing out here." She hesitated, then ran. I caught her as she nearly collapsed into me. Her skin was like ice. Her knees buckled. Without another word, I threw my arm under her shoulder and helped her to the porch, practically dragging her inside. I slammed the door shut behind us, bolting it. The wind rattled the windows, but at least we were safe. She leaned against the wall, shaking like a leaf, barely able to speak. I grabbed a blanket from the couch and threw it over her. Then I moved to the fireplace and jammed kindling into the grate, striking a match with trembling fingers. The flames roared to life, spreading warmth into the room. "You're safe now," I said quietly. "You're okay." She just stared at me. No words. Just those wide, haunted eyes. Like she'd seen something she couldn't forget. I pulled out a towel and handed it to her. She dried her face, still silent. "Name's Luke," I told her. "You don't have to talk. Just, you're welcome to stay here as long as you need." She opened her mouth, like she wanted to respond, but nothing came out. I brought her some tea, and she sat on the floor by the fire, holding the mug like it was the only solid thing in the world. Her eyes stayed fixed on the flames. And then, finally, her lips parted. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was raw, like she hadn't spoken in days. I nodded. "Do you want to tell me what happened?" She flinched, and that's when I knew. Something terrible had happened. Something real bad. The next morning, I found her still curled up by the fireplace, wrapped in the blanket, her hair still damp. I made eggs and bacon, and the smell seemed to wake her. She sat up slowly, her eyes moving cautiously around the room. "You didn't sleep," I said, setting a plate down in front of her. She shook her head. "Didn't want to." "You're safe here," I said again. "I promise." She looked up at me, like she wanted to believe it. But people like her, they'd been promised a lot of things, and most of them had been lies. I didn't push her. I just let her eat. She took small bites, her hands still shaking. When she finally spoke again, it wasn't much. Just her name. "Ray," she said quietly. "My name is Ray." I nodded slowly. "Ray. All right." She hesitated. Her voice cracked. "Thank you, Luke." And the way she said it, it didn't sound like someone thanking a stranger for eggs and shelter. It sounded like someone who hadn't been shown real kindness in a long, long time. Later that day, I found her in the barn. I thought she might have run, but no. She was sitting on a hay bale, stroking the neck of my old horse, Willow, whispering to her like she was telling secrets. Willow stood still, completely calm. She usually didn't take to strangers. But with Ray, it was like they'd known each other forever. "You like horses?" I asked, walking in. Ray didn't look up. "Used to have one. A long time ago." Her voice was softer today, warmer. I leaned on the post, watching her. "You can stay here as long as you need, Ray." No questions asked. She finally turned toward me. There was something in her eyes now, an edge of steel, hidden beneath the fear. "You're kind," she said, "but you shouldn't trust me." "Why not?" She looked away. "Because someone's looking for me. And if they find me, you might regret letting me in." That chilled me. But I didn't flinch. I met her eyes, then let them come. "You're safe here. I'll make sure of it." She studied me for a long moment. And then, she cried. The kind of cry you don't fake. The kind that breaks something in your chest just hearing it. I sat beside her and didn't say a word. Just let her cry. That's how trust starts. Not with words, but with silence. Ray stayed mostly quiet the next few days. She helped around the house, fed the chickens, brushed Willow without me asking. But something about her was always alert, like a deer that hadn't yet decided whether I was friend or predator. On the third morning, I noticed her staring out the window for a long time. I followed her gaze. A black SUV had slowed down near the edge of my driveway. Didn't turn in, just paused, then kept going. Ray turned pale. "You know that car?" I asked, my voice low. Her lips tightened. "I think so. Want me to call someone?" She shook her head instantly. "No police. Please." Her reaction was sharp, too sharp to ignore. I didn't push, but I grabbed my old hunting rifle from the closet that night and leaned it by the front door, just in case. The next morning, she finally opened up. Sort of. We were fixing the fence when she suddenly said, "He wouldn't let me leave. Not even to see my mom." I turned to her slowly. "Ooh." She didn't say his name, just kept tying the wire. "He said if I walked out, I'd disappear. That no one would miss me." That made my stomach turn. "Was he your boyfriend?" I asked gently. She gave a bitter laugh. "He owned the house, paid the bills, called it love." She stood and wiped her hands on her jeans. "I know what people think, that I was stupid for staying. But you don't know what it's like to live afraid, to have your life monitored down to the minute." "I believe you," I said, meaning every word. She met my eyes. For the first time, I think she believed that I actually meant it. Later that day, I drove into town to grab supplies. When I came back, Ray was gone. Panic hit me hard. The front door was wide open. Willow was neighing loud in the barn. I searched the house, the barn, the back fields. Nothing. Then I saw it. Tire tracks. Deep. Fresh. Not mine. I jumped in my truck and tore down the gravel road like my life depended on it. And maybe it did, because for the first time in years, someone had shown up in my life that mattered. And I wasn't about to lose her now. I followed the tracks until they veered off toward an old abandoned service road outside town. Trees pressed in for both sides, branches clawing at my truck. The wind howled again. Another storm was coming. I floored the gas. Half a mile in, I saw the SUV. Parked crooked, engine running. No one inside. The passenger door was wide open. And then, movement. In the trees. I jumped out, heart pounding, gun in hand. "Ray." No answer. Leaves rustled to my right. I spun just in time to see a man step out from behind a tree. Bald, tall, sunglasses despite the gray sky. He didn't flinch when I raised the rifle. "Where is she?" I barked. He smiled. "She's not yours to protect." Wrong answer. I fired into the air. Not a warning. A threat. "Next one's in your leg." The smile disappeared. "She ran," he said. "Took off before I could catch her. Crazy girl always was a runner." "Your boyfriend?" I asked. "Let's just say she owes people." I didn't lower the gun. He backed off slowly. "You're making a mistake getting involved." I stepped closer. "And you're standing in the wrong damn field." He took the hint. Got in the SUV. Peeled out. But Ray wasn't there. She was still out there. Somewhere. And it was getting dark. I searched for 2 hours. Nothing. Then I heard a branch snap. I turned and saw her, barefoot again, scratched, out of breath, staring at me from across the creek. I ran straight into the water. She collapsed into my arms before I could say anything. "He found me," she gasped. "He's not going to stop. He never stops." "I will," I said fiercely. "I promise." She looked up at me. Tears and mud streaked down her face. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered. "Because no one helped my sister when she needed it." That stopped her cold. She didn't ask more. She just held on tighter. That night, I didn't sleep. Neither did she. I stayed by the door, gun in my lap. She sat by the fire again, wrapped in the same blanket. And something shifted. It wasn't fear anymore. It was war. The morning after the scare, Ray stood in the kitchen, staring out the window. She hadn't touched her tea. Her hair was still damp from the shower, but her expression was different, firmer, colder. "She'll never stop, will she?" she muttered. I looked up from my chair. She turned slowly. "No, not she." I said what I meant. She walked to the table, sat across from me, and leaned in. "My ex, Landon. He's not the one calling the shots. He answers to someone. She's the real monster." My stomach sank. "There's more." I asked, cautious. Ray gave a dry laugh. "So much more. You ever hear of Wholewell Industries?" I frowned. "Yeah, they own half the county. She owns it. Evelyn Holtwell. She's Landon's older sister. She plays everyone like a chessboard. He's her pawn. I sat back. That name wasn't just powerful. It was untouchable. Generational wealth. Political influence. You couldn't spit in this state without it landing on something owned by a Holtwell. Ray looked me dead in the eyes. I didn't run because of Landon. I ran because I found something. Something that could destroy them both. I didn't speak. She reached in her pocket, pulled out a tiny flash drive, and slid it across the table. It's all here. Bank transfers, tax evasion, laundering. I found it by accident, and I copied it before they could wipe it. I stared at the drive like it was radioactive. They'll kill for that, I said quietly. I know. She folded her hands. And that's why I need to stop hiding. I'm done waiting for someone to save me. Her eyes locked on mine. I need your help. We spent the next hour planning. Every word felt heavy, like we were drawing blueprints for a war. I offered to take the drive to the police. Ray shook her head. You think they don't own half of them already? I offered to go to the press. She frowned. They've silenced worse. Then she looked up slowly. But if we go back to her estate, I know where the original records are. The paper trails. The contracts. That's what they can't erase. I nearly choked. You want to go back to the Holtwell property? I have to, she said. And I can't do it alone. Her voice trembled just barely. Please. And that's when I knew. She wasn't asking me because she needed a hero. She was asking me because for the first time in years, she was choosing to fight. And she just needed someone to stand beside her. That evening, I packed my old shotgun and loaded the truck. Ray changed into dark jeans, a hoodie, and boots. She looked ready for a mission. Her face was calm, her hand steady, but I could feel the tension in her every step. As we drove, she told me everything. How she met Landon at a charity gala, when she was working as a caterer. How he charmed her, swept her off her feet, moved her into a guest house on the Holtwell estate, told her she didn't need to work anymore. Then how it changed. How Evelyn started asking favors. How Landon began isolating her, gaslighting, keeping her from friends, taking her phone, changing her passwords, telling her she was emotional when she cried. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. And one day, she whispered, I found a drawer in Evelyn's office. Unlocked, full of signed contracts in my name. Things I'd never agreed to. But legally, it looked like I had. Her voice cracked. That's when I knew. I wasn't a girlfriend. I was a puppet. We drove in silence for the next mile. Then I said, we'll burn it all down. And she smiled. Not out of joy, but out of pure resolve. We parked the truck in the woods, a half-mile from the Holtwell estate. It was nearly midnight. The mansion sat on the hill like a fortress, gated, marble pillars, security lights blinking every few feet. But Ray knew the blind spots. The old gardener's path hadn't been used in years, and the camera angle hadn't been adjusted in just as long. We snuck through the bushes, keeping low. Ray's breath came in shallow, controlled bursts. She wasn't panicking. She was focused. Every step deliberate. She knew this place. Every inch of it. I followed her up the side of the building until we reached a narrow basement window. She pried it open with a tool she'd taken from my shed. The window popped, and we slid inside. The room was cold. Storage boxes lined the walls. Ray took a flashlight and moved with certainty. Evelyn keeps the records in a safe, behind the wine rack. She pushed the shelf aside and revealed a heavy steel door. I need 30 seconds, she said. I kept watch. 30 seconds passed. Then 60. Then I heard the beep. She turned, holding a thick folder in her hands. Let's go. We moved fast, but not fast enough. Voices echoed down the hall. Ray froze. She knows we're here, she whispered. She's coming. I grabbed her hand. Then we run. Ray and I ran for our lives. Guards chased us through the woods as Evelyn Holtwell screamed orders behind them. We made it to the truck, barely dodging a bullet that shattered the back window. I floored it. We didn't stop driving until we crossed state lines. That night, we hid in a cheap motel. Ray clutched the folder, real paper records proving Evelyn's crimes. She stared at it like it held her entire life. We have to release it, she said. Now. I nodded. We scanned the documents and sent them to every journalist, agency, and watchdog group we could. By morning, it was viral. The news exploded. Fraud. Shell companies. Abuse of power. Evelyn Holtwell was exposed nationwide. The FBI raided her estate. Landon was arrested trying to flee. Her name became poison overnight. Ray didn't celebrate. She sat in silence, processing, shaking. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid. I found her outside the motel the next morning, watching the sunrise. I thought I'd feel free, she whispered. But I feel empty. I said, that's what healing feels like at first. She looked at me. Then stay with me while I figure it out. We went back to the farm, not because we were hiding anymore, but because we needed peace. Ray planted a garden. She fixed the broken fences. She brushed Willow every morning. She didn't talk much about what happened, but she smiled more. She got calls from organizations wanting her to speak, help victims, consult on cases. She said yes to all of them, but she always came home to the farm, to me. 1 year later, we sat on the porch together. She looked stronger, peaceful. I'm not the same girl you found in the storm, she said softly. No, I smiled. You're braver. She took my hand. I think I'm finally ready to stop surviving and start living. We watched the sunset in silence. The woman I'd once pulled out of storm was now the reason my world felt calm. She wasn't running anymore, and neither was I.